What's up guys, Graylan Stewart here. Thanks for joining me for another video. So today I'm actually going to talk about a Novation deal, but it's a case study and I'm going to show you step by step exactly how to fulfill a full transaction on Novations. Okay, so if you're new to my channel, thanks for joining me. My channel is mostly about wholesaling real estate, but we do some other creative deals like Novations. So stick around and I'll show you exactly how to do it. All right, so a little bit about this deal. So obviously we do lots of marketing to bring leads into our system, okay? This particular lead came in from cold calling. So this was a cold calling deal that we got, and we actually closed this right before the new year. So I think we closed it on December 29th. But I'm going to break it all down for you, all the documents that we had signed, when we had to get them signed, how that whole process worked, who signed them, and then what repairs, if any, that we ended up doing, just the whole case study and a how to start to finish. So check it out. This is going to just walk you through the whole thing, okay? So let me show you that we got the deal for $85,000, okay? This is our purchase price with the seller, okay? So we got it on a regular purchase agreement with an addendum that says we're going to novate this, okay? The second document you need is a novation and an indemnification agreement. So you get that signed from the seller, still shows at 85 grand. And then the third document we have up front is authorization to sign listing docs and offers, which is basically an attorney in fact. But this is very similar to, it's just like having an actual power of attorney, basically. But this doesn't need to get notarized or anything. So we get those three documents signed right up front, okay? So let me show you the actual pictures on this property. So we bought it for 85. We were guessing that the ARV on this was probably around $140,000 or so, 150 maybe if you push it. But this is the as-is condition right here. So by no means is this a perfect house. It needs some work for sure, right? I think it was a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, something like that. This car was the biggest issue, believe it or not, because you can't see the view from here, but there's no wheels on it, and it's been there for years and years. And if you notice from the front of this building, just back up to the front one, the very first, you can see that there's houses on both sides of this. So there's no way to get this car out. That was the biggest issue. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through. But as you can see, a car won't fit through this little space right here. But this is the condition of the home as it is, as it sits. So it's got a little add-on back here, and it's got the little storage building, which is a positive for sure. It's in a decent little area that a lot of people might want to live. So we ended up selling this to a retail buyer. So first of all, when we do novation deals, we always put it out there to our regular investor cash buyers, okay? But there were no takers. The best offers were coming in a lot lower than we wanted. Like I said, we got the deal for 85. I think the best offers we were getting were in the 90 to 95 range, just because it's a little higher than what you typically could sell, to cash buyers, at least investor cash buyers. So we ended up putting it on the MLS. That's kind of our policy. After it doesn't sell for a week, we go ahead and put it on the MLS. But we even try to wholesale novation deals, is my point. But as you can see, it's not in terrible condition, but it definitely needs a little bit of work. That hot pink is not ideal, probably. So most buyers won't want to keep that. But it is a retail buyer that bought this deal. So we're going to go through the whole process. So obviously, I showed you the agreements up front that you got to get. Purchase agreement, the novation and indemnification agreement, and the attorney in fact agreement, okay? Now you need 5 agreements total. That's 3 of them that you get signed right up front, right when you get the deal, okay? And then of course we go get the pictures, and that way we can show those everywhere. And we get a video. Walkthrough video is a must, on all deals. Our policy is we have to get a video on every deal. So this is just a video walking through the entire property. Oftentimes we have sellers do this for us. If the seller can't get it done for us, then we end up having, a boots on the ground person kind of get that for us. But there's a whole walkthrough video that kind of shows more in depth and more of the layout of how the house flows and that kind of thing. So I won't bore you with that entire thing. Go ahead and pause that, till another minute long. But let's just get more into the actual deal, okay? So we got the deal right there. Let me move all this over a little bit. So that's the regular contract, the novation agreement, and the attorney in fact, okay? So then we actually got a deal on the MLS, okay? This is in Oklahoma. So here's the thing. We got a $120,000 offer with $500 earnest money in closing that, the company that we wanted to close at anyways. So again, we got the deal. If you notice, go back to this, for $85,000, okay? Now we've got a purchase agreement through a realtor because we had it listed on the MLS for $120, right? I think we listed it for, we actually had it listed, I think, for $115. They gave us over asking, but they were asking for some money at closing and that kind of thing, which these are oftentimes longer contracts. I think there's 7 pages on the Oklahoma OREC contract, but somewhere on here, it's not important to really find it. They wanted, like $6,000 or something like that in closing costs. And it's an FHA deal. So what that tells me is it's probably a first-time home buyer, because that's what FHA deals are for. And they probably don't have any money to put down, which is why they asked for closing, which is why they gave us 5 over our asking. Okay. But if you just do the quick math, 120 from 85, it looks like $35,000 profit, right? But that's not the case, obviously, when you're talking about the MLS. But one issue that we had, we wanted more than $500. We want more skin in the game from the seller, or from the buyer rather. So we did an addendum saying, hey, we want $1,500, not $500. And we're not paying for that warranty that they had on there. They wanted a warranty for like $700 or something like that. But as you can see, the seller's signature is right here. Now, keep in mind, the seller never signs this. This is our disposition manager that signed this, okay? And all you have to do is put AIF next to it, attorney in fact, because that gives us rights to actually sign on their behalf. So therefore, we did. Okay, so that was our counter. We liked their offer, and we were going to go ahead and give them the $6,000 or whatever it was in closing, but we wanted more earnest money, and they gladly agreed. Now, as you know, these deals go through inspections just like any other MLS property would. So the inspection report was huge, okay? But they only asked us to do 14 things, which was still overboard to me. Luckily, did not need termite treatment, which was great. But they wanted all these 14 items done when really it's probably more like 18 items, because they put 2 items on some of these things. Cracked window pane in master bedroom to be replaced. Missing and inoperable window locks required or replaced. So that's 2 on one line right there, which a lot of these we went ahead and agreed to, because FHA is really picky, and I've been around the block a little bit, so I know that some of these might be required just to get the FHA loan approved. So that's the only reason we went ahead and agreed on some of these things. But we did not agree on the ones that we lined through, and then we had the seller or the buyer go ahead and sign that. And then we signed it as well, which this one doesn't show that, but we signed the seller's name, just with the AIF next to it. So once we get that agreed, okay, so we're going to do those things. We had to get it done. Now, when you get to the end of the day, now there were costs, okay? There was, so the 6,000 closing costs. And then when you take the 120, let's just get the calculator out here and kind of do some of this math together, just to give you a little bit more calculator, more of a idea of what this really is. How come that's not popping up? There we go. Okay, calculator. So $120,000. Okay, now we're going to pay. We always pay the buyer's realtor 3%. Okay, so 3% of that is $3,600. Now keep in mind, we already agreed to give them $6,000. And I don't know that that number is right. It's right around $6,000, but then you add that $3,600 into it. So we're already giving up $9,600 of our profit, right? Now keep in mind, we did a flat fee listing. Even though my disposition manager is a licensed realtor, we still use a flat fee broker, which costs us $150. Okay, So we take that $9,600 and we also add that $150 listing fee. So now we're in it for $9,750, but that doesn't include these repairs. So keep in mind, when people do novations, when people agree to sell on novation, they're basically agreeing to a consignment is really what it is. Okay. And that's kind of how we explain it a lot of times. Um, we just say, hey, we'll take this house on consignment because on a cash deal, we might need to be at like 75,000 on this property. But Mr. Seller, if you're interested, we can consign it for you to where you're going to get your money upfront price of $85,000 as opposed to having to be at 75 for wholesale or whatever. Like if we want to buy it cash, we need to be at 75. And this is hypothetical. We might have needed to be, closer to 60. I don't know. But if the 75 doesn't work, then we can definitely give you 85, but we just need a little more time. We're going to list this on the MLS to our cash buyers. Now, oftentimes people ask me, well, why would they agree to that? Why wouldn't they just list it themselves? And the answer is this. They go ahead and agree to that simply because we take all of the headache away from it. Like we handle pretty much there's no showings. When there are, we try to put them all close to one date at least. So there's not a lot of them. And we list it lower than value. So like this was listed for $115,000 on MLS and it's worth about $140,000. So therefore we're going to get serious buyers really quickly. And we take care of all the repairs if there are any. That's on us. We pay for that. We pay for realtor fees, closing costs, etc. So it's kind of like the benefits of wholesale, but they get a higher price. So it's a win-win. And we typically end up making more on a novation deal than we would on a wholesale deal. So anyways, we're at $9,750. And then we have all these other things that we said that we take care of. And we ended up spending, I'm not even sure exactly what we spent. Let's just say $2,000 added to that, plus that $9,650. I don't even remember what that number was at this point. But let's just say $12,000 is coming right off the top. So we see the 120 minus 85 was 35,000, but then we're taking 12,000 at least off of that. And that's not even considering, the closing costs or whatever else. Well, let's just say, hey, we got 20,000 kind of built in, which I think some of the math was a little wrong on that because we actually did a little bit better than that. Because here's the final settlement statement. As you can see, on behalf of the seller, we did this deal with a buyer and a seller. Our name's not on here anywhere because we're not wholesaling. A lot of times on a wholesale, so this is the settlement statement if you've never seen one, also referred to as a HUD. They don't really do HUDs anymore. They're called settlement statements now, or ALTAs. Okay. Settlement statement, you can see $120,000 credit for the buyer, because that's what they're paying. But here is seller credit. So we actually agreed to give them $61.49. And then they had some other liens that's on them, and then their taxes and things like that. But as you can see right here, pay off the novation and indemnification agreement to my LLC, which technically, guys, this usually doesn't say that. It just says usually it'll say lien payoff and then our LLC. But we ended up with $24,149.47. Of course, there's some things, the hard costs that we had, like I said, $2,000 or so on fixing those things up and the flat fee listing fee. But other than that, that's kind of the profit that we had. So minus maybe $2,000. So around $22,000, which is kind of what the calculator just showed a second ago. But there it is right there. That's what the seller paid. But we ended up with around $22K as opposed to the 35 that it looked like. But either way, wholesaling wise, we were going to make 5 to 10. So yeah, a little bit more work, but to make 22 instead of 5 to 10 is a lot better. We more than doubled what we would have gotten. So hopefully that makes complete sense and you understand what I'm trying to say there. So hopefully that all made sense. If it did, great. If not, definitely drop me some comments and let me know your thoughts, your questions. I'd love to answer them. And hopefully you can start doing novation deals yourself. And as a side note, I do have novation agreements for sale on my website. If you want them, they were super expensive. That's the only reason I charge for them. I paid a ton of money for attorneys to draw these up, to tweak them, to get them right, to make sure that we're covered, all those things, right? So anyways, let me know your comments, like, share, subscribe, all those things. Appreciate you guys.
Okay, wait. Don't go anywhere yet. So before you leave, let me actually tell you how we underwrite these deals, okay? Now, here's what we do. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can underwrite these, but this is the way we do it, and we do probably 3 or 4 Novation deals per month. So here's how you underwrite them, okay? Now, you get the ARV. That's the same way you do with a wholesale, okay? After repair value, okay? Here's what we do. Get the ARV, multiply by 90%, okay? Now, after you get that 90%, we subtract the repairs, we subtract the fee that we want to make, which is usually a little higher than what we want to make on wholesale, okay? So for example, let's do the math. $100,000, for example, as an ARV, multiply by 90%, that gives you $90,000, okay? Now, subtract the repairs, let's just say they're 10 for easy math, that brings us down to $80,000. Now, in a wholesale deal, we want to make at least $10,000, but Novation, let's just say we want to make at least $15,000. So we started at 100, 90% is 90, subtract the repairs of 10 in this scenario, just hypothetical, brings us to 80. Now we want to make 15, so 65 would be our actual max offer in this scenario that we're talking about, okay, for Novation, right? Because there's a little more work involved, so we want to make a little bit more on Novation deals to make it worth our while. So that's how we underwrite it, y'all. Now that 10%, typically what that does is covers our realtor commissions, the closing costs that we're paying for the seller, and it also covers potential repairs that we might have to make. Now, we don't go overboard with repairs, but sometimes are necessary when you have these retail buyers because they can't get the loans approved without certain repairs being done oftentimes, okay? So that 10% kind of factors all of that stuff in because we're only paying 3% on the realtor fee because we do flat fee realtors usually. So on the front end, it's only like $150, $200, right? And then the 3% is in that 10. And then typically we're going to have, we just kind of account for 2 to 3% in closing costs. So that brings us to potentially 5 to 6%. And the other 4 to 5% is what we can spend on repairs. And if we don't, that's just more money in our pocket. So that's exactly how we underwrote this deal, which instead of making 15, we actually made probably 22,000 or so profit. So there you go. That's how you underwrite those. And that's how we do it all day, every day. So like I said before, drop your comments. If you got any questions, I'll definitely answer them. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.